Hey everybody, welcome to Storytime with Miss Beth. I thought I would shake it up a little bit tonight, and instead of reading you a book, that I would tell you a good story tonight. And so, the story I want to share with you is a favorite. It has been a family story for years and years and years. My mother-in-law, Gail White, wrote this story, and she's the one that's the expert at telling it, and I only hope that I can share it as well as she has over the years. You can see that this story is old. You barely can see the writing on it. It's called The Ghost of White Chevrolet. Now, I'm going to tell this story like Granny Gail would be telling it. Years ago, my children's great grandfather started a car dealership. Now, that would be my children, Joseph and Will's great great grandfather. It was located in downtown Manchester behind Coulter's Diamond Center. And the name of the dealership was Clay Motor Company. At this time, all the roads in Manchester were dirt roads. There were no blacktop roads, no gravel roads, just dirt roads. So that tells you how long it is. Now, Papa Langdon sold gasoline at his garage, and it had to be pumped by hand. You had to wind the pumps before you could get gas in your car. It wasn't like going down the road to a gas station and just putting the nozzle in your vehicle and pulling the little pump and letting gas flow. You had to wind it by your hands. Now, not many people own cars in Clay County. But the dealership had this one black car. It was perfect. Though it was a used car, it would shine and gleam. Now, a man and his wife came to the car lot looking for a car, and they asked the price of that black car. They didn't think that they could afford it. And Papa Langdon, well, he priced it to them CHEAP, cheap. And one of the salesmen that worked there talked too much. And he said, "You don't want that car. Everybody that buys that car brings it back." Now, Papa was trying to sell that car, and the salesman was interfering. And Papa was mad. Business was not good, and he needed to sell that car. So he priced it to them cheap, and the man and the woman bought the beautiful black car. They loved their car. They would take long rides together, and they couldn't believe their luck. At first, they enjoyed the car so much. And then one day, the wife took the car out for a ride all by herself. And she kept feeling that someone was in the car with her. She slowed down and she turned her head and looked. No one was there. But she kept having the feeling someone was in the car with her. And one day, when she was driving along, she looked in the mirror, the rear view mirror that's in the front of the car. And she saw two big, blue, ugly eyes leering right back at her. And the eyes were covered with bushy brows. And they stared out of a beardy face. She stopped the car right then, and she turned around and looked, but nobody was there. Another day, she was driving along, and she began to smell something that smelled like rotted fish. But when she looked, no one was there. Now, she didn't tell her husband because, like husbands are, she was afraid that he would tease her and tell her that she was crazy. But what she didn't know is that He too, when he was driving along all by himself, he was seeing the horrible face in the mirror, and he was smelling the terrible smell. They never said a word to each other. And time went by, and they began hearing voices in the back seat. Ugly voices, ugly words, parts of sentences like, kill him, ambush him, get his dog. They never heard it when they were together. Just when they were driving along in the car. And the day finally came when neither of them could stand it any longer. And they told each other what they'd been seeing and hearing and smelling. And they decided that they would take the car back to the dealership. And they took it back. And the salesman said, "You saw him, didn't you? You heard the voices. You couldn't stand the smell in the car, could you?" "Who is he?" asked the young couple. And the ghost was a well-known Clay County man who had been horribly, brutally murdered in the back seat of his car. That very car. Now the same car turned up in our car lot year after year. Everybody who bought it brought it back. And at last, we were no longer able to sell it. No one would buy it. It's still sitting up there now on the back lot of white Chevrolet. It's all covered with briars and weeds and bushes and vines. It's rusted. The windows are broken. Nobody buys it anymore. It's just sitting up there on the back lot. And that's the end of that. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Granny Gail, who is the one that provided this wonderful story. Don't forget to like and subscribe.